My childhood was awesome. It was what every kid's childhood should be like. My parents were strong Christians. My dad was a fireman. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She was the room mom every year in my elementary class. We didn't have a lot of money, but we had everything that money can't buy that we needed. Yeah. My parents were leaders in the church. They were the parents that were at camp every year and were on every mission trip and every youth trip, and yeah, it was awesome. At the South Haven Church of Christ, we were there before, yeah, my dad's rule, we had to be there 30 minutes before it started, so.
Still follow that rule today, right?
No, not even close.
So, graduating high school, and where did life take you?
Straight to Henderson, Tennessee, Freed-Hardeman University. I did all 4 years there. Definitely my friends and my bulk of my friends, we met instantly and stuck it out all the years together, and my best friend to this day is still one of those girls. I don't know, we just did girl stuff. We were goofy and had fun and chased boys and shopped and ate and sang, and we're just crazy. Keith and I actually met in the youth group at church. We had known each other since middle school. Yeah, we were just buddies. He was a clown that made everybody laugh, kind of, and so I never had any interest in dating him. He had graduated from college somewhere else and moved back to South Haven as well. And we actually ran into each other one night after worship services, and it was just, it was a thing of, hey, how are you doing? Fine, how are you? And when he walked away, I kind of went, Keith kind of grew up a little bit. He kind of grew up a little bit in college. So we ran into each other again the next week, and the next week and before long, we just started hanging out. And we started dating and dated 3 years until we got married. We got married in the fall of 1997. It was a good life. It was hectic. My dad was actually diagnosed with cancer right after we got married, and that took on a lot of my time and kind of consumed me a little bit. But it was a nice little happy life. And then we actually had a baby about a year and a half into our marriage. I guess about a year and a half into our marriage. A little bit sooner than we had planned, but I think that I almost think it was providence, because it gave my dad something to live for. And he would tell his doctors, I've got a grandbaby on the way. It's actually, he would say, my baby's having a baby. He was like, I need to hold that baby. He got to hold my first baby, and he got to hold my brother's second baby. I guess we had been married about 5 years, and Mary Brett came along. So I had 2 little girls. Keith had gone to the doctor and they said he had bronchitis. No biggie, took some medicine. 2 weeks later, he still didn't feel well. So he went back to the doctor and they said, well, now you have double ear infections and the flu. Again, it's flu season. No biggie, take the medicine. 2 weeks later, it was a Sunday morning, and he walked into the kitchen while I was getting the girls ready for worship, and he said, do you think I could still have the flu? And I said, you know what, you could still have the flu, but let's do this. Let me go with you tomorrow, and we'll go to a different doctor and get to the bottom of it. And you know, if the Z-Pack didn't work on you, we need something else. He said, it hurts when I do this. I said, the first grade teacher and the mom and me, I said, well, don't do that. I said, put your arm down if it hurts. He was like, it hurts to turn. I said, you know what, you get back in the bed and you rest. I'm gonna take the girls on. I said, try to stop moving. And our plan was to go to the doctor the next day. We came in from worship. He was up and about, and I said, no, you need to go back to bed. I'm gonna keep the girls quiet today. They took a good nap. After their nap, I said, you know what, we're gonna play quietly today. Daddy needs a nap. He's not feeling well. So as the day progressed, it was time for Sunday evening services. So I started getting Mary Brett ready. And I decided I would go in and just wake him up and check on him. And let him know that I was about to be leaving to take the girls. And that's when I found him in the floor. And I knew instantly, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was dead. So I got down and I started. It had been years since I'd been in any kind of CPR classes, but I tried to bring that all back into memory, and I was trying to revive him. But then all of a sudden I remembered the girls. And so I rushed to my bedroom door, and we had an elderly couple that lived next door to us, Miss Kay and Mr. Phil. And I said, Ann Carter, I need you to take Mary Brett to go see Miss Kay right now. I knew I needed to call 911. So I called, I made the 911 call, and I said, I think my husband's dead. That night at some point, I guess it had been a few hours, somebody said, Kathy, do we need to go get the girls from next door and bring them home? To me, that's the ugliest, that's the saddest part of the story. Because I'm an adult, I can make myself cope. But to tell a 7-year-old little girl that her dad died, and to try to tell a 2-year-old who has no understanding, that was the hardest part of that story. I will tell you something about Miss Kay and Mr. Phil from next door, because I think it's a neat part of the story. They told me a few weeks later, but they told me they always rode together. And on the Sunday, our Sunday, Miss Kay told Mr. Phil, she said, Phil, I'm not sure why, but I don't think we need to go in the same cars tonight. He said, what do you mean? And she's like, I'm not sure. I just want you to go on ahead of me, and I'm going to wait about 10 minutes, and I'm going to come after you. That 10-minute gap is when I sent my babies to her house. And I think that was providence. I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. Because I was so young, I knew I was not going to be a typical widow. People were pouring the first Christmas. You should have seen our den. I mean, and I know it's just what people do because they want to love you through something like that. The girls' presents around the hearth, I mean, just piles. It looked like a toy store. It was sweet. People would not stop loving us. But I think it was a defense mechanism, and also my stubborn, determined streak. I was determined that I didn't want anybody to have to do things for me. We lived in a very grand home on a huge lot. I learned how to mow. I learned how to weed eat and edge. I learned how to change air filters, and I knew when my car needed to be changed for oil. I took my washing machine apart one time.
Wow.
I couldn't get it back together. I didn't want people to have to take care of us.
Yeah.
I stayed strong, and I think physically, I didn't skip a beat.
Yeah.
We were still at worship. I was still teaching Bible class. I was knocking it out of the park at school in my classroom. I was very determined to not let this alter my life more than it obviously did. That I had that mindset for about 2 years. I didn't blame God. I did ask why a few times. When I would hit a down moment, I would go, I can remember one time going outside by myself and just saying out loud, you know, why is this happening to me? You know, what did I do to you? But I kind of was able, luckily, and I attribute it to my parents and the way that I was raised, I was able to shake that off. You know, it was just a bad minute. I never really blamed God. I followed through the motions that my faith was still as strong as it should be, but it wasn't. And that's why after a few years, when I realized I was physically tired, emotionally tired, just drained from the production, I just let my guard down. I let my life just sadly slowly start to crumble. You know, it wasn't intentional. I never said, you know what, today's the day I'm going to turn my back on God. Today's the day I'm going to walk away from the church. It was never intentional or deliberate. I don't think it is with anybody. Then I had friends who weren't Christians that loved me very much, and I loved them very much. But they went to places and they did things, and they were surrounded by people that, looking back now, it's sickening for me to think about. But I started following them. I thought, you know what? I've kind of had this tough life, woe is me. You know what? I'm going to give the world a shot for a while. I would live one way with one group of people and another way with another group of people. And I don't know how people do it, because that's exhausting in itself. And it's ugly, and you're never happy, you're never fully content or satisfied. One night, I was actually at this big party, lots of people there, and doing lots of things that shouldn't be done. And this man actually kind of said something to me that was, he was a friend of mine's husband, and I'd been playing this joke on a girl. I mean, it's silly, it's not even a worthwhile story, but he said, why are you doing that to her? I was like, it was just a joke. She thought it was funny. And all of a sudden, he blows his top and starts screaming at me and starts yelling and cussing at me in a way that was crazy. And his wife came over to me and she was like, oh, blame this on the alcohol. And at that very second, I left and I got in my car and I started praying, begging God to forgive me for what I had done, that I had just basically turned my back on Him after everything that He had done for me. And I had just shunned that all. And I can remember I kept driving and praying and saying, I know you forgive people. That's what you do. But is there any way you're going to be able to forgive me? Because this is 2 years worth of a lot of ugly sin. But I was doubting, and I know that was the devil. Because I kept trying to reassure myself and say, Kathy, God forgives. It's what He does. He's full of grace and He's full of mercy. He's going to forgive you. But my life had been so ugly for a few years. I didn't know, He does. He cares so much. And he did care for me, and he got me through that night. And I could feel it, if that's not too dramatic to say. I could feel it happening, and I knew that Sunday morning, I got my girls, and I looked terrible, having cried for hours on end. And I was like, all right, girls, it's time to get ready and get ready for Bible class. And I was still praying as I was getting them ready, going, God, please help me. Let me know that you're going to be there for me and help me get through this. And my phone rang that morning, and I thought, that's so weird. Who's calling me on a Sunday morning? And I answered the phone. I was like, hello. And I heard a voice that said, hey, Kathy, this is Matt Presley. I know it's weird that I'm calling on a Sunday morning, but I just wanted to say hi. And I said, well, hi. I said, I hope you're okay, but I can't really talk to you. I've got a lot on me right now. I hope you have a good day. Bye. And I went on about my business and took the girls to worship, and I don't really remember much about the day other than that afternoon. At about 3 o'clock, my phone rang again. And he said, hey, Kathy, this is Matt Presley again. Listen, I just want you to know that I could tell you were hurting this morning. And I've been worried about you all day. And I felt very compelled to call you to see if there's something you want to talk about. I don't remember what I said and what I didn't say. I'm sure it wasn't very much. But I can remember praying and saying, God, I 100% poured my life back to you last night. And I begged you to help me through it. And then this man that I had not seen in I don't know how many years called me to check on me. Do I need to kind of open my heart up to him a little bit? Is this somebody I need to maybe share some of this suffering and recovery with? And I decided that yes, I thought I might need to maybe spend some time in conversation with him. The next few months, Matt and I spent a lot of time on the phone. We burned the road up between South Haven, Mississippi and Mobile, Alabama. We were probably together 3 weekends out of the month. So we decided if we wanted to get married, and we definitely wanted to get married, that I would need to make the move to Mobile. We got married in June of 2012. Blending the families, we were very conscientious about not pushing the kids. But we thought of a couple of things ahead of time, and we prayed about it a lot. We thought of a couple of things ahead of time that we thought could really help. And it sounds silly and it kind of sounds shallow, but we wanted a house with a pool that they could play and get to know one. Even though they'd had all those weekends, it's totally different when you move in with somebody for good. So we did that. We lived in a house with a pool for a few years because what little kids don't like a pool? And then we decided that we would start some fun traditions of our own. I think to this day that those are a couple of the things that help the kids. Yes, and now I don't mean to make it out like it was perfect, because it wasn't perfect. It was an adjustment. this probably wouldn't need to be on the video, but I can remember Carter saying, "Is Dalton always going to eat at the table in just his underwear?"
That needs to make the video.
Yeah, it was funny. And we needed some comic relief along the way, but
Yeah.
I would want them to know that their situation is unique. There's nobody, even in talking to ladies who have lost a husband, every situation is different. I can't possibly, even though I can empathize through it, I cannot know their feeling because their situation was unique. It's okay to feel like nobody gets me. I think that I would say to people who are hurting or suffering, sometimes you might easily be offended or upset by what people try to say to you in trying to help you. But it's hard to know what to say. I would tell them to try to find somebody that lives a life that's pleasing to the Lord to lean on. I think sometimes that when we find people who do not live that life and we lean on them, it ends up hurting you, just like it hurt me. I wish that I could have turned it over to God. I wish that I would have handled things. I wish I would have opened His Word then and poured myself into it instead of having to hit rock bottom.
So what about you has changed in the last 5 years?
I do a lot more laundry. My faith is much stronger. Living with a husband who loves God more than me. That's pretty amazing. I love Hannah, Carson, Tucker, and Dalton like they were my own. I guess I've changed in that my faith is stronger. I don't take things for granted that I used to take for granted. You know, we always look back and we say, you know, we don't know why things happened the way they did. But what we do know is that he and I are where we're supposed to be right now, doing what we're supposed to be doing right now.